What is the creepiest glitch in the Matrix you have experienced? Part 2. 1. Not sure what you'd consider this, but it's creepy nonetheless. December 22nd, 1998. It's 9 a.m. and my aunt makes a surprise visit to my house. My parents are divorced, and my mom is at work. She decides to treat my brother and I to a movie. She's never really done this before, but we're both excited. It's now around 10 a.m. and we're sitting in the movie theater watching the movie. I'm getting bored, and my mind wanders. I suddenly have a thought flash through my head. Which parent would you rather die first? Being a kid, I weigh the option. Maybe mom because she's so strict. Maybe dad because I don't see him very often. Then I shake the idea out of my head and think to myself, don't even think about this now because it won't happen for a very long time. The movie ends and we drive back to my house. My mom is home, which is weird because she should be at work, and I remember making a joke to my aunt that maybe she got fired finally. My mom hated her job and boss and constantly joked how she wished he'd just fire her already so she can collect unemployment and find something better. I walk in and my mom tells me my dad, an armored guard, has been shot and killed during a robbery. He was gunned down at 10:02 a.m. The only reason my mom was home is because her sump pump broke and the neighbors called to say the lawn was flooding and icing over. The only way she found out he was killed was when she turned on the news and there was a breaking report. About an hour after, she got the phone call from the police hospital. More weirdness. My dad was 44 years old. He died on December 22nd, 98. He was gunned down at 10:02 but pronounced dead at 11:22. Edit. Forgot this story. Years earlier when my parents were still married, they were fighting and my dad said something to my mom, "You're going to feel really sorry the day I go to work and get shot in the head." My mom remembers he said this in December too, because she was putting up Christmas decorations. 2. There was one night during the mid-90s when I was with my ex and there was a big yellow-orange full moon out, so we decided to go out for a drive. We lived in a small West Texas town, so we didn't have to go too far to be out of town and into the countryside. After a short drive, she decided to become lovey-dovey, so we were nearing a smaller town with a rest area just on the outskirts of the town. We parked and instantly the mood changed and she picked up on it too. There was a van that was parked further down in the area and for some reason, my eyes kept going to it. I kept feeling like we were being watched even though I couldn't see anyone in the front area of the van. My ex goes from being loving to apprehensive and she asked me what's wrong, but I couldn't explain it. Everything just felt off. The moon, the van, the area, the music, and I just had a feeling like we weren't supposed to be there or that we were interrupting something. I had the terrible feeling that the car wasn't going to start, which would have put us in a really bad situation because there was absolutely no one around, except for whoever was in the van, and it was nighttime, so the little town, which was still about a mile or two away, was mostly closed except for gas stations. This was also before cell phones were mainstream and affordable, so we didn't have that luxury. Fortunately, the car started and we got the hell out of there, but as we were leaving, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw that a few people had gotten out of the van and were looking in our direction. I'm not sure if it classifies as a glitch, but I think we both picked up on something that night that may have saved our lives, and it was definitely creepy. 5. Okay, I have 3 and 2 are similar. Not sure if they're necessarily glitches, but definitely weird. Not as weird as some of these that I've read though. 1. When I was in the 7th grade, Pokémon cards had just come out and were the newest fad. I, being a super cool 13-year-old, of course collected them. Didn't bother playing the game, but collected the cards nonetheless. I kept my cards in a binder in those protective plastic sleeves that people usually keep baseball cards in. One day, I was looking through my cards and noticed that one of them was gone. The holographic Machamp, for any other Pokemon nerds out there. Which was really weird since the binder hadn't moved from where I had left it and the card was in there last time I checked. I looked everywhere for that stupid card and couldn't find it anywhere. Not too long before this happened, my aunt told me a story about how she had lost a diamond tennis bracelet and had prayed to Saint Anthony by saying, "Tony, Tony, look around. I've lost something that can't be found." And later that night the bracelet was sitting on her pillow when she went to go to bed. I decided to try the prayer, because why not? So I said, "Tony, Tony, look around. I've lost something that can't be found." And then went about cleaning my room that I had destroyed in the process of looking for the card. I knelt down to pick something up, and sitting behind my dresser, with just enough of the top sticking out, was the mother-loving Pokemon card. I was dumbfounded since I had searched every square inch of my room and definitely looked behind the dresser. Also, my mom was the only one home while all this happened and she was downstairs the whole time. No idea how the card got out of the binder, where it was when I couldn't find it, or how it got behind the dresser. I've used the Saint Anthony prayer a few times since then and it works every time. It's not that I just end up finding the item, but it's always found in a weird place where it shouldn't be and is unexplainable. So I guess if you ever can't find something, try the prayer and maybe Tony Tony will help you out. 2. When I was in high school, my mom only worked a few blocks away, so would drive me to and from school every day. One morning during my junior year on our way to school, I had a very nagging feeling that something was wrong with my grandma, my mom's mom. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to freak my mom out for no reason. I went about my day and didn't really think about it again. When my mom came to pick me up that afternoon, she was visibly upset, so I asked her what was wrong. She told me that my grandma had had a heart attack and was in the hospital and that she had to go to New Hampshire, we live in Chicago, to go see her. My grandmother never recovered and passed away a week later. 3. Every night before I go to bed I watch TV, and when I turn the TV off I put the remote on the nightstand next to my bed. One night a few months ago I did just that. The next morning I went to turn the TV on while I was getting ready for work, but the remote was gone. Again I looked everywhere for the remote, nowhere to be found. It bugged me to no end that I couldn't find the remote, since I knew, without a doubt, that I had placed it on my nightstand the night before. Flash forward a few months later. I got a new bed and was moving my old bed out of my room. It's also important to mention that I have a wooden bed frame that the box spring sets down into. As I was moving my old bed out of my room, I lifted up the box spring and there was the remote. Not like it had just fallen off the nightstand and landed under the bed on the floor, but it was laying in between the box spring and the wooden frame in the middle of the frame. The only way it could get where it was would be that someone, which would have had to be me since I live alone, lifted the box spring and mattress and put it there, which I definitely did not do. 6. Strangest for me. A friend of mine, K, dated a girl, D, long ago. She was cool and they dated for a while, but they broke up. Sometime later, he began dating another girl, M. They stayed together for a couple of years, throughout high school mostly. At one point I was hanging out with the both of them at M's parents' house. M's dad caught us smoking weed, but didn't care all that much. Fast forward like 4 years. K and I are talking about the past, and he informs me that M's dad had killed himself. I was shocked. He was a nice guy. I remember the time he caught us and we share a laugh about old times. Then like 6 months later, it comes up again. I ask how M is doing, but K is confused, saying it was D's dad that killed himself. I tell him that when he told me, we reminisced about the time he caught us smoking. K remembers this conversation well, and is completely baffled as, at the time it seems M's dad had killed himself. But that was no longer the case. It's not the kind of thing he would confuse. Anyways, M's dad is alive and well. It would seem we jumped into a slightly different reality at some point. 7. I think the creepiest so far is the one where I had a phone call from an alternate future or current future, and I have posted on here before. In 2007 I got a phone call from an elementary school, and a teacher asked for my name and said she was calling about a young boy named Alex, they gave his last name too, who was feeling sick and that they contacted me because I'm his emergency contact. I told them I had never heard of the school or the boy and I'm not sure how they got my information. The lady then asked if this is my first and last name and I said yes, but I insisted that I wasn't the emergency contact for this child, had never heard of the last name. She said goodbye and hung up. I later told a friend about it and we looked the number up on reverse number sites, and we found no results. We even called the number and we got the "this number is not in use" message from the operator. 9 years later the number is still not in use. I don't remember the name of the teacher or the school, but I do remember the name of the child. I don't know anyone with that last name. I'm convinced it's a glitch. I can see someone getting my number wrong. I've had the wrong number thing happen, but for someone to nail my first and last name is what struck me as odd and still does. Also the fact that according to her my first and last name and phone number was written down in their emergency contact list. Who would place it there? I didn't.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.